On today's episode, we're crashing the party with the always fabulous Mech Corps crew here in Houston to learn about all things Battletech, giant robots, and more fun than you can shake a stick at. Don't go anywhere, it's time for fan service. Hey everyone, welcome to fan service, and as you know, we are checking in with the Mech Corps crew to learn about Battletech, giant robots, and all sorts of fun things, because let's face it, who doesn't love a giant robot? So I'm joined with, are you guys masters?
I'm a master pilot. This
Sadly,
is our
I am not.
Sadly, he's all, sadly I'm not as good. So introduce yourself to the world.
I'm Q. I've been playing this since 1996. It's far too long, but hey, you know, it's fun.
My name's Diablo. I've been playing since 1995 on a family trip to Vegas, and I'm having a blast with it.
So I gotta ask real quick, how did you come up with your call names? And if you say Star Trek, I'm just gonna mute you.
I promise you, way too long a story for this. No.
Abbreviate it in one sentence.
I really can't. I hate to say it, I really can't.
What do you can like write a novel? It'll be the next great American novel, How I Called Myself Diablo.
Yeah, that might work, you know.
All right.
I want the rights, though, to that.
So what about Q? Is it Star Trek?
Well, no, it was more of a fact that I used to go by something else, and I got tired of the people at Dave & Buster's not being able to spell it.
You had that problem too. My original name, I had that problem with. They're like, how do we spell that? Fentoozler, F-E-N-T-O-O-Z-L-E-R, and they looked at me like I was crazy.
Well,
Yeah, I feel you
so-
there.
there's still a problem, though. People still do misspell Diablo.
I think I did once, but I have horrible spelling anyway, so I get away with
you
it.
know, I've
totally
just
get away
learned to
with it.
let it go at this point. Doesn't matter to me.
What was the worst spelling you ever saw?
Well, Diablo is always impressive. I was like that one.
I haven't been that bad. Sometimes I forget a vowel, but that's about it. So, we're going to talk about giant robots. Because, let's face it, that's like one of the cornerstones of geekdom, gamerdom, nerddom, whatever you want to call it. And I can't think of better people to take us through it than you guys, because we ran into you a long time ago, and you've been through us through all of our name changes and all of our evolutions, and we just keep finding ourselves here because it's a lot of fun. So, what is Battletech?
Well, the short version is, in the very early 1980s, there's a group of game developers who were making supplements for other game systems, took a trip over to Japan, saw some of the giant robot anime, all that kind of stuff, thought this would be really cool to make video games and board games out of, came back home and started making board games. So they made this thing they called Battle Droids.
So is this the first version of Battletech?
Yes, one complaint from George Lucas later,
Here we get
and it became Battletech.
one complaint from George Lucas, but you
You
know
know,
what?
funny
That's
thing,
how it
he
works.
trademarked the word droid.
You know, I didn't realize that till they released the Android platform. And
Yes.
Droid. Copyright
And
Lucasfilm.
as everybody has
mentioned
noticed,
that,
George
yeah.
Lucas and his lawyers are fanatical about searching out anything
He gets
to hunt
really
down.
good ones, too. I'm impressed with him.
So, my
and-
quick question is the difference between the first one and the second one you brought up? The first one had very anime-inspired robots in it, whereas the second one was more of your industrial, bulky robots.
Well, there's a lot of long back history involving that also involves a lot of lawyers. But they did eventually have to update both the look and some of the robots that they were using in the game. And that brought us about to where 4th edition is, where you start to see things that look like, you know, really big honkin' giant robots.
Really big honking giant robots.
know,
Is that
stuff
the
that
technical
looks-
term for it?
Stuff that
Very
looks
technical.
well,
Be careful using that. Yeah,
a lot-
Big words.
a lot more things that have, you know, bird-type legs, or they're very huge, and there's no way you could mistake them for some guy in a suit.
Now, I'm going to laugh.
Even in a Gojira movie.
When you said bird-type legs, I'm picturing a robot with chicken legs. Honestly, that's the first thing that popped into my
Now,
mind.
mind
Well,
you,
funny
we do
thing,
actually have
there's
that.
That's a vulture. And as you can see, it's got bird legs.
I'm not going to mention the Osiris, which we do call the chicken mech.
Yeah,
Does it look like a giant chicken?
close enough.
It's pretty awful in its design, yeah.
So, 4th edition of Battletech. It went through a lot of evolution, obviously, because the first box, I could have sworn it had Starscream on it. It looked like a little picture of Starscream.
Right.
And going into the more... Why do you think they went for a more industrial look as opposed to look everybody's used to and loves?
Well, again, some of it had to do with lawyers. Some of it had to do with hiring new artists who had different takes on it. A lot of it had to do with the fiction side and the storyline side that they were going
There's
for.
a storyline in Battletech?
There's over 60 novels. This is one of the earliest ones. You can see the mech they've got on the front of this thing. It really kind of looks a lot like certain other anime that we probably shouldn't mention on the air.
Oh no, we have no shame, by the way. But yeah, I can totally see that.
You can totally see where that comes from.
I like the little guy hiding behind the rock.
Yes.
He's the same guy on the back.
Yes. But that's, so they started out writing all sorts of novels and really fleshing out this universe, and it's a whole universe. It's, the year 2700 and beyond across the entire Milky Way, where people are jumping planet to planet, having huge conflicts, nations that are, entire, sectors of the galaxy fighting against each other. You have, groups of people land on these, on worlds, and they'll fight, 300, 400, 500 battle mechs fighting over a world. It's that big of a scale. And so you have a lot of that in that backstory, and that kind of leads us forward, if you can grab the Solaris box here. One of the big things that has come back again and again is Solaris 7, the game world, which is quite literally sort of semi-neutral ground where, mercenaries, people, mech warriors from the various houses get together and fight in gladiatorial combat in the mechs.
Think Roman Colosseum sort of thing.
Yes. And a lot of that, so, a lot of the worlds, there's either an area of the galaxy or even just down to a specific world where there's a source book for it. So
is this a board game, a miniatures game, or a pen and paper RPG?
The answer is yes.
Exactly.
In a short way, yes.
Well, okay, so Solaris 7 here, you'll notice on the very bottom it says, a campaign setting for Battletech and Mech Warrior 2. That's because Battletech is the war game miniature sort of game. You put down the battle mat, you have your mechs, you do your fights, all of that. The Mech Warrior pencil and paper fleshed that out into a full-scale role-playing game sort of game. Mech Warrior is what also became eventually the video game line.
Which I'm used to the video game
Which you're used to, and we've got some of those over here as well. Everybody knows this one. If they don't know this one, well, take them to the local half-price books and buy it for them.
Will it even play on today's machines?
You can get it to play depending upon what version you pick up. There are, believe it or not, patches that will make the Titanium Edition run on Windows 7. It can still be played. But this really focuses on some of the storyline, on some of the outlying groups, the war between Clan Wolf and Clan Jade Falcon. I'm sure you remember playing through it.
Yes,
Long
actually,
time
I do.
ago.
We've all given away our age here. We're going to keep that secret.
Yes.
It's also one of the things that I've noticed really brought about Mech Warrior to the PC audience. It's truly the most popular version of it. We see a lot of people coming through the store that actually recognize that as the first PC game they played.
See, and that was one of the early ones I played because I played Mech Warrior before Battletech, and I didn't know they were both correlated until I met you guys. And so, do you run across that a lot? Like, oh, you mean like Mech Warrior?
Somewhat. I mean, if you go really old school to some of the really old guys, there is Battletech for the Super Nintendo and Genesis.
Once again, proving all of our respective ages.
Which, believe it or not, the functions that are in this, where you're stomping around, blowing up buildings, picking up power-ups, looks a lot like the Xbox thing that came later.
Wow, I remember
Gee,
that.
where did
Then
this come
called
about?
Mech Assault.
Yeah.
And which really, I mean, in terms of what it is, it was very popular. It was one of the driving forces on popularity for the Xbox. But in terms of gameplay, we wish it had been called something else, because it's very arcade-ish. It's very stomp on stuff, pick up power-ups. Whereas the games that have come out for the PC, whether it be Mech Warrior 2, Mech Warrior 2 on the Saturn,
Sega Saturn was a good system.
Mech Warrior 3, which we've got some of the pieces and bits for over here.
Yeah, the high budget version that we have here.
Yes, the box kind of went missing at some point, I'm sure. But Mech Warrior 4, which is actually the core function software that's been modified to make the pods run, and now Mech Warrior Online are all very simulation-based. You're really controlling this giant robot rather than twiddling a couple of thumbsticks and shooting stuff.
So, what drew the two of you to like BattleTech so much that you devote this time? Because you got a lot of pins, you're a master, pretty sure you're on your way to be a master. You have, what drew you to want to like this so much?
Well, the funny thing, since you mentioned the masters thing, is to become a master, you have to take what's called a master trial, which is a long, drawn-out scenario involving fighting one-on-one against 3 masters to beat them at their own game. I made it on my 3rd try. He's tried over 9 times.
Well, it's somewhere around 7, 8. I've lost count at this point,
but
honestly.
The funny thing is that it's a test of luck. It's a test of skill. Some of it really does have a random element. And honestly, when he comes up for it the next time we play, the guys who are assembled, the masters who are there to defend this, are going to be drawing straws to see who gets to take him on.
Why is it like a contest and a badge of honor?
What happens is that you play against 3 masters at the same time. You have to defeat 2 of them and survive the 3rd over a 10-minute game. You have 2 lives to do it. And I've been around the community enough. I originally started out in the New York area, now here in Houston. I know enough of the master community personally that every one of them wants to be the master who lost to me when it happens. Because all of them keep saying when it's going to happen that you master. And yet, for some reason, it never happens. Thanks, Q. I appreciate that.
So, what's the lure of BattleTech to you?
Well, some of it's community.
I was going to say, community, it's never the same game twice. Never, ever, ever is it the same game twice.
Yeah, but couldn't you say that about most board games or role-playing games or LARPing events?
Well, part of it is getting people together and really playing socially. You get so much, and it's one of the things that I'm sure you've played on Xbox Live, you've played other online games. You remove that visual of the person, even when you have the Xbox Live headsets, it's not quite the same thing as getting out of the pod or getting done with the board game, and they're right there in front of you to shake their hand, talk about it, say, yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah. I'm a video gamer at heart myself. I love playing video games. I go way, way back in terms of systems. I will admit that. And you don't have very many cases where you go to an arcade like it used to be way back when.
Once again, we're giving our age away.
Absolutely. In that case, I'm proud to say how old I am.
We used to be able to go to all sorts of arcades. Like, my favorite was Brave Firefighters. You ever play that one?
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah. I remember that. I remember a lot of the original arcade games, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, all that sort of stuff, certainly. And I remember where I used to live back in New Jersey had a number of different arcades around and all that. And it's very hard to even find one nowadays. Mech Corps is the last of something that I really remember and I really cherish. It's not very often you can go play a game with a bunch of friends and all have to be in the same room together.
It is definitely a lost social art, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, the other thing about it is when you play this game, you come over to the store, or you go to a convention to play it, you're sitting down to play it against real people. You're not playing against some computer AI most of the time, although we can do that, where you have the AI where it goes from deliberately making mistakes to I never make mistakes. You're playing against real people. They change, they adapt, they notice what's going on, and you do the same, and so there's that push and pull dynamic to the gameplay that really is very different. When I sit at home and play games, honestly, most of the time what I want to do is I want to play a single-player game, and I want to enjoy the storyline and the gameplay. But when I come here, the entire dynamic changes because I'm here to play with people. I'm here to get better and learn from them and see their tricks and have them see my tricks and really enjoy that.
In a manner of speaking, the story almost doesn't matter. The whole key of it is the people in the community, the games that you're playing, the times.
And that makes our own story.
Absolutely.
And believe me, we have plenty of them.
Yes, we do.
Oh, yes. So for someone who's like, you know what, I've heard about Battletech for a while, and I want to start playing, would you recommend they start with the board game, the miniatures, or there's the pen and paper RPG, or find someone or someplace to come
Q,
play
you want
with
to start on this?
If they're wanting to pick up and start playing and enjoying, I mean, if you can find a local games convention, you know, Houston has OwlCon, MagCon was just a couple weeks ago. You know, there are some in San Antonio, Austin. You can find people very quickly to play on the tabletop with and try it out and learn it and have a good time that way. Mech Corps here, I mean, to play this game, Mech Corps, show up in Houston,
Yeah.
or VG Corps up in Dallas, or find one of the other locations. The website will help you out is getinthepods.com. If you want to sit there and play on the PC, if you want single player, grab Mech Warrior 2 or Mech Warrior 4. Mech Warrior 3 I wouldn't pick up until you've been playing some of the other games. Or if you want to play socially and have some of that aspect, although it takes a lot of work because they're not quite there yet in terms of integrating everything, Mech Warrior Online is slowly coming together.
Well, I ask because, you know, we in Austin we have Dragon's Lair. It has games all the time. The only place I have ever seen anybody play Mech Warrior or Battletech is at ChimeraCon, which is an all-gaming convention. They don't play it anyplace else. So it's like no one really touches it, understands it, or, you know,
And
it's weird.
a lot of it was going to be actually what I was going to say for it. It boils down to what type of gamer you are, what you have access to. In your area, you don't have as many tabletop players that are interested in the Battletech franchise. So I'd stick toward the PC, I'd stick toward the video games. Go with a Mech Warrior Online, or, as Q said, pick up Mech Warrior 2 or Mech Warrior 4 or something like that. There are a lot of great choices out there. It really boils down to what you like as a gamer.
So which one do y'all prefer? Board game, RPG, or... We're going to count this out because you obviously love this.
Oh, I was going to say the pods immediately. Come
Which
on.
one would you prefer? Pen and paper or board?
Of the most of them, I spend the most time in the pods. When we go to a convention, I will make a point of seeking out a chance to play on the tabletop. Because again, as you mentioned, it's harder to find groups that you can get to every week, that you can play reliably with to do tabletop. Although we've been discussing actually doing a tabletop day or two here, because people are interested enough through this to want to try it out, and some of us have our equipment.
Our equipment, they have all sorts of stuff. So, what about you, Diablo?
For me, it would probably be tabletop. I'm always a PC gamer. I've been a console gamer, PC gamer all my life. So, of course, Mech Warrior Online, the pods, or something like that would be first choice. But I've done some tabletop gaming in my time, too. I've worked for conventions doing tabletop gaming. So that would definitely be where my heart would go as well.
Yeah, the only tabletop game I've ever seen played was down at ChimeraCon, and they used the HeroScape pieces, because HeroScape's brilliant.
They make nice boards that way.
It works well.
I have some.
I used to have some. I used to have a whole bunch of them, actually. So, last thing, what is your favorite robot in the game? I like how they had to stop
Too
and
many
think.
choices. There are
Pick
too
the
many
one
choices.
that you rule.
The one that I guess has become my signature is the Demos, which is specialized to the pods and specialized to that universe.
What's its strength?
Long-range weaponry, plenty of guns, big arms, assault.
Big arms, that's its strength?
It can reach a lot.
Oh, yeah!
The long range, it can reach a lot of things that a lot of other mechs can't. A lot of the in-close brawlers can't get to.
And for you?
Well, I passed the master trial in the Templar, which is a very mobile assault class mech. I can also tear up in a Hauptmann, which is much, much more of a close-range brawler.
I just like the little one that can run away from you. That's all I know.
We have a few of those too. Don't worry about it.
We could do that one. So that's been the brief history of Mech Corps and Battletech, mostly Battletech and giant robots with Q and Diablo. And it's raining outside. They're waiting for it to flood, apparently.
Lovely weather out
Yeah.
today.
Oh, beautiful out.
I just want to be out there so much. Absolutely.
By all means, head out, leave the equipment inside.
Yes, yeah, probably a good idea.